Get your black ass out of that car, now! Officer, I haven't violated any... A black man, driving a Lamborghini through a white neighborhood. Laughter. You must think I'm stupid. The door ripped open, collar grabbed, Italian silk tore like trash. This car costs more than you're worth, boy. It's legally mine. Slam. Face crushed onto burning hood, knee grinding into spine. Your kind doesn't own Lamborghinis. Your kind steals them, sells crack for them, pimps women for them. Please, if you'd check my documents... Shut up! Spit hit his neck. Your black skin is all the documents I need. Cuffs clicked, too tight, cutting flesh. I'm searching this car, and when I find what you're hiding, and I will find it, I'll put you in a cage where animals like you belong. The black man said nothing. He simply waited, because this cop had just made the worst mistake of his career. He just didn't know it yet. The afternoon sun blazed over Ridgemont Heights. Population 45,000. Median household income $180,000. Country clubs. Private schools. Gated communities where the gates meant more than security. Black residents, 18%. Black homeowners in the Riverside District, 3%. This was old money territory. Generational wealth. Unwritten rules everyone understood. People who looked like Lincoln Owens weren't supposed to drive through here. They certainly weren't supposed to drive a $280,000 Lamborghini. Officer Derek Vance circled the car like a shark. 34 years old, 8 years on the force, built like a linebacker gone soft. Eyes that calculated threat based on melanin content. 38 complaints sat in his personnel file. 0 had resulted in discipline. Captain Morrison made sure of that. Had been making sure of it for 6 years. Every complaint marked unfounded. Every accuser discredited. Every pattern buried under paperwork. Vance had learned the lesson well. Certain people had no voice, no power, no recourse. He'd built his entire career on that knowledge. "Murphy!" he barked across the street. "Get over here, now!" Officer Jenny Murphy stepped out of the second patrol car. 29 years old. 3 months on the job as Vance's partner. 3 months of watching things she pretended not to see. She approached the scene slowly, taking in details. The torn suit jacket, expensive, Italian, now ruined. The blood on the man's cheek, burned from the hot metal hood. The knee still pressing into his spine. Unnecessary, cruel, deliberate. Something twisted in her stomach. The same something that twisted every time she watched Vance work. "What do we have?" she asked. Voice neutral, professional. "Stolen vehicle. High-value target. Suspect is being uncooperative." Murphy looked at the man on the hood. He hadn't moved, hadn't struggled, hadn't raised his voice. His breathing was measured, controlled, almost meditative. "He doesn't look uncooperative to me." Vance's eyes narrowed. "You questioning my assessment?" "Just observing." "Then observe quietly." He turned back to the Lamborghini. "I know how these people operate. Trust me." Lincoln Owens counted seconds in his head. 1, 2, 3. He'd learned this technique 22 years ago. First week as a patrol officer, when a white colleague had called him boy in front of suspects, when he'd realized his badge would never fully outweigh his skin. 4, 5, 6. His cheek throbbed against the cooling metal. The initial burn had faded to a dull ache. His wrists screamed where the cuffs bit into bone. His knee bled where it had scraped pavement during the takedown. 7, 8, 9. He could end this with 2 words. 2 words and Vance would be apologizing, backpedaling, suddenly remembering proper procedure. But Lincoln didn't want an apology. He wanted evidence. A crowd had begun to gather. First came the woman with pearls, mid-60s, white, country club tan, phone raised like a weapon. "Finally," she announced to no one in particular, Someone doing something about them coming into our neighborhood. Then the older man, 70s, golf shirt, arms crossed over a belly built by expensive steakhouses. That car costs $300,000. You think he earned that, please? Then the teenage boy, Jalen, 16 years old, black, standing across the street with fire in his eyes and fear in his mother's grip. "Don't," she whispered, urgent, terrified. "Baby, please, don't." But Jalen had seen this movie before. His father, his uncle, his cousin Marcus, who'd spent 18 months fighting a wrongful arrest charge, the same story on different streets. He pulled out his phone, started recording. Among all the black stories he'd witnessed, this one felt different somehow. He didn't know why yet. Lincoln caught Jalen's eye through the chaos. The boy's rage was pure, unfiltered, the kind of anger that got young black men killed. I was you once, Lincoln thought, before I learned that rage is a luxury we can't afford. Vance yanked Lincoln upright by the cuffs, metal grinding against bone. "Let's see what you're hiding." He approached the Lamborghini. No warrant, no consent. No probable cause except the color of a man's skin. Fourth Amendment violation. Section 1983 Civil Rights Claim. Title 18, Section 242, Deprivation of Rights under Color of Law. Lincoln knew every code, every statute, every legal precedent. He'd spent 6 years in internal affairs, investigating officers like Vance, building cases that should have been slam dunks, watching them get dismissed anyway. The system protected its own. That's why Lincoln had spent the last 2 years planning something different. Murphy stood apart from the growing crowd. Her hands trembled slightly. Her eyes kept darting to the Lamborghini's floor. Papers had spilled from an overturned briefcase during Vance's violent extraction. Official letterhead, government seals, signatures she didn't recognize. She bent down, picked one up, read the first line. Her face went white. Quickly, too quickly, she folded the paper, slipped it into her pocket. Lincoln watched through his peripheral vision. She knows. The only question now, what would she do with that knowledge? Speak? Or stay silent like she had for 3 months? Vance emerged from the car empty-handed. His face had reddened, frustration building towards something dangerous. "Where is it?" He grabbed Lincoln's collar again. "Where'd you hide the drugs, the cash, the guns?" "There's nothing to hide." "Bullshit." Vance shoved him against the car door. "Your kind always has something, always running some hustle. I can smell it." "My kind?" "Don't play games with me, boy. You know exactly what I mean." Lincoln met his eyes, calm, steady, unbroken. "Yes," he said quietly, "I do know what you mean." And that knowledge would cost Derek Vance everything. A black SUV turned onto the street, government plates, tinted windows, moving slowly, deliberately. It pulled to the curb 200 feet away, stopped, engine running, no one got out. But inside, someone was making phone calls, urgent ones. Vance's radio crackled. "Unit 14, status update requested." He ignored it. His focus had narrowed to a single point, the man in front of him, the man who remained impossibly calm despite everything. 22 years. The words came from Lincoln, soft, almost casual. "What?" "You said you've been watching people like me for years, but you've only been on the force 8 years. I was curious about the math." Vance froze. "How do you know how long I've been on the force?" "Public record. Officer performance reviews are filed with the city. Anyone can request them." "You requested my file?" "No." Lincoln's voice stayed level. "But I've read a lot of files over the years. You'd be surprised what patterns emerge. Something flickered in Vance's eyes. Uncertainty. The first crack in his armor. He recovered quickly, mask sliding back into place. Smart guy, huh? Think you know things? He grabbed Lincoln's jaw, forced his head up, fingers digging into flesh. Let me tell you what I know. I know a drug dealer when I see one. I know stolen property. And I know that your black ass is spending tonight in a cell. The crowd had swelled to 40 people, phones everywhere, recording from every angle, a dozen different perspectives on the same ugly scene. Some watchers provided commentary. He probably stole it. Cops don't stop people for no reason. Where there's smoke, there's fire. But other voices had begun to emerge, quieter, less certain. He hasn't done anything wrong that I can see. Why won't they tell him what he's charged with? This doesn't feel right. Sarah Bennett pushed to the front. 32 years old, white. Civil rights attorney who'd moved to Ridgemont Heights 3 months ago. She'd taken one look at the demographics and known something was wrong. Now she was watching proof unfold in real time. Officer, her voice carried across the crowd. Can you tell us what specific crime this man is being detained for? Vance didn't look at her. Step back, ma'am. Police business. It becomes public business when constitutional rights are violated. What's your probable cause for this stop? He fit a description. What description? From what incident? What was the date of the report? Vance's jaw tightened. I won't ask again. Step back or face obstruction charges. Sarah didn't move, but she raised her phone higher. I'm live streaming to 12,000 viewers. Would you like to repeat that threat for the camera? Murphy touched Vance's arm. Derek, we should wait for backup. We don't need backup. The crowd is getting hostile. The crowd can go to hell. Vance jerked his arm away. This is what we do, Murphy. This is what the job is. If you can't handle it, wait in the car. He turned toward the K9 unit that had just arrived. Briggs, bring the dog. We're doing a vehicle search. Officer Briggs hesitated. 41 years old, 12 years with the K9 unit. He knew procedure. He also knew what happened to officers who questioned Vance in public. You got a warrant? He asked anyway. I've got probable cause. Vehicle matching stolen car profile. Suspect unable to provide proof of ownership. He said his documents are in the car. And I'm saying they're probably fake. Vance smiled. Cold. Certain. Run the dog. Let's see what we find. The German Shepherd circled the Lamborghini. Lincoln watched with professional detachment. He knew this game, had investigated it 24 times during his internal affairs years. K9 alerts were only as reliable as their handlers. A slight change in posture, a subtle verbal cue. The dog responded to its trainer, not to actual contraband. Studies showed false positive rates up to 80% in some jurisdictions. Courts rarely questioned them. The Shepherd completed one circuit. Nothing. Second circuit. Still nothing. Third circuit. Vance shifted his weight, cleared his throat slightly. The dog sat. Alert posture. Nose pointed at the trunk. He's indicating, Briggs announced, but his voice lacked conviction. Good. Vance's smile widened. Probable cause confirmed. Pop the trunk. Lincoln spoke for the first time in several minutes. That dog didn't indicate autonomously. Your partner cued it. Excuse me? The shift in posture before the alert. The throat clear. Handler-induced false positive. It's a documented phenomenon. The Ninth Circuit addressed it in Florida versus Harris. Vance's face reddened. You calling me a liar? I'm stating an observation. Any search based on that alert would be inadmissible. Fruit of the poisonous tree. Map v. Ohio, 1961. I don't care about your law school bullshit. You should. Lincoln's voice remained calm. Because everything happening right now is being recorded, and recordings don't lie. For a moment, just a moment, doubt flickered across Vance's face. Then rage replaced it. "Open the trunk," he ordered Briggs. "Now!" The trunk contained exactly what Lincoln had said it would. A gym bag, Nike, black. Inside, running shoes, size 11. A white towel, protein shaker, wireless earbuds. Nothing else. Vance tore through it anyway, ripping seams, scattering contents across the pavement. Nothing. He searched every corner of the trunk, pulled up the floor liner, checked the spare tire compartment, ran his hands along every surface. Nothing. His face had gone from red to purple. "Where is it?" He stormed back to Lincoln. "Where'd you hide it?" "Hide what?" "The drugs, the money, whatever you're running." "I'm not running anything. I'm driving home from a meeting." "A meeting?" Vance laughed. Ugly. Harsh. "What meeting? Drug Connect? Gang Summit? Planning your next robbery?" "A meeting with the governor's office." The words landed like a slap. Vance blinked. "What?" "Governor Harrison. State Capitol. Policy discussion about law enforcement reform." Lincoln paused. "I can provide the calendar invitation if you'd like." The dynamic was shifting. Sarah had moved closer, still recording. "Officer, this man has stated he had a meeting with the governor. Have you verified any of his claims?" "Lady, I don't verify anything until suspects are processed." "He's not a suspect. He hasn't been charged with a crime. He's being detained without cause." "The cause is the vehicle alert, which appeared to be handler-induced. I'm an attorney. I know what a legitimate K9 alert looks like. That wasn't one." Vance stepped toward her. "Are you interfering with police business?" "I'm exercising my First Amendment right to observe and record public officials performing their duties. Any attempt to stop me would constitute prior restraint." Glick v. Cuniff, First Circuit, 2011. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The older man in the golf shirt spoke up. "She's got a point. He hasn't actually done anything wrong." The woman with pearls shot him a look. "Gerald, whose side are you on?" "I'm on the side of facts, Karen. And the facts are, this man has answered every question calmly while this officer has been screaming like a maniac." A news van appeared at the end of the street. KRTV Channel 7, local news, Diana Wells behind the wheel. She'd been monitoring police scanners when chatter about a situation in Riverside caught her attention. When she saw the social media posts, already going viral, she'd broken 6 traffic laws getting here. She jumped out, cameraman following. "Officer Diana Wells, KRTV News. Can you explain what's happening here?" Vance's composure cracked visibly. Media meant scrutiny. Scrutiny meant questions. Questions meant accountability. "This is a routine traffic stop. Nothing newsworthy." A black man in handcuffs. A $300,000 car searched without apparent cause. 40 witnesses with phones. Diana smiled. "That sounds newsworthy to me. I have no comment." "Then perhaps the gentleman in handcuffs would like to comment?" She turned to Lincoln. "Sir, can you tell us what happened here today?" "Chout." Murphy stepped forward. Her face was pale, hands shaking openly now. "Derek," her voice was barely a whisper, "we need to stop. Right now." "We're not stopping anything." "You don't understand what you've done." "I understand perfectly. This is what policing looks like, Murphy. This is how you maintain order. If you can't stomach it, I found something." Vance stopped. In his car. A document. Murphy's hand went to her pocket. "Derek, I really think you need to see this before we go any further." "Show me." She pulled out the folded paper, handed it over. Vance snatched it, unfolded it. His eyes scanned the letterhead, the seal, the signature at the bottom. His lips moved as he read, then stopped, then read again. The color drained from his face. This is... His voice cracked. This can't be real. Murphy spoke loud enough for the crowd to hear. I verified it while you were searching the trunk. 3 phone calls. Governor's office, mayor's office, department headquarters. It's authentic. It can't be. It is, Derek. It's real. Sarah pushed forward. What does it say? The public has a right to know. Vance looked at the paper, at the crowd, at the cameras, at Lincoln. The black man met his gaze, still calm, still patient, still waiting. Check. Murphy took the paper back. I'll read it. She cleared her throat. Her voice carried across the suddenly silent crowd. The office of Governor Harrison hereby confirms the appointment of Lincoln Owens as Chief of Police, Ridgemont Heights Police Department, effective December 15th. This appointment follows a rigorous selection process and reflects Mr. Owens' 22 years of distinguished service, including exceptional performance as Internal Affairs Commander and commendations from 3 separate governors. She lowered the paper. This man isn't a drug dealer, Derek. He isn't a car thief. He isn't a criminal. Her voice broke. He's your new commanding officer. Silence. Absolute, complete, suffocating. 40 people holding their breath. 30 cameras recording. 1 cop watching his career collapse in real time. Then the chaos began. Karen lowered her phone, face gray. Gerald's mouth fell open. Jalen laughed, sharp, triumphant, vindicated. Diana Wells whispered something to her cameraman. Tell me you got all of that. Every second. And Vance? Vance stood frozen, paper trembling in his hand, face cycling through stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression. Acceptance wouldn't come for a long time. Tom, no. His voice cracked like dry wood. No, this is fake. This is a setup. It's not a setup, Murphy said quietly. Then it's a forgery. Someone planted it. I verified it myself. 3 separate sources. It's real. It can't be real. Vance spun toward Lincoln, desperate now, drowning. You knew. This whole time you knew what you were, and you let me... Let you what? Lincoln's voice cut like a scalpel. Precise. Devastating. Let you call me boy? Let you say my black skin was my crime? Let you spit on me? Let you promise to put me in a cage like an animal? He stood slowly, wrists still cuffed, blood drying on his cheek. I didn't let you do anything, Officer Vance. I simply didn't stop you. Why? Because I needed to see. Lincoln's eyes swept the crowd, the cameras, the witnesses. I needed everyone to see exactly what kind of department I'm inheriting. The black SUV finally moved. It pulled up to the scene. Doors opened. Mayor Patricia Williams stepped out. 52 years old, first female mayor in the city's history. Face tight with fury, barely contained. Deputy Commissioner Reynolds followed. Tall, distinguished. 28 years on the force. Chief Owens... The mayor's voice could have frozen lava. We've been trying to reach you for 90 minutes. I was detained. She looked at the handcuffs, the torn suit, the blood. Then she looked at Vance. If looks could kill, there wouldn't be enough left to bury. Officer, remove those handcuffs, immediately. Vance didn't move, couldn't move. Murphy stepped forward with the key. The cuffs clicked open. Lincoln rubbed his wrists. Raw, bleeding in 2 places. He'd have scars. Good. Scars were evidence, too. Thank you, Officer Murphy. She couldn't meet his eyes. I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. Yes. No anger in his voice. Just truth. You should have. Lincoln Owens stood at the center of a hurricane. Cameras flashing, reporters shouting, witnesses pointing and whispering, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. 22 years ago, rookie cop, 3 weeks out of the academy, full of hope and ignorance. He'd pulled into a gas station after his shift. Personal car, plain clothes, just a tired young man filling his tank. The white officer approached from nowhere. License and registration. Officer, I'm on the job. My badge is... I don't care what you claim to be. Out of the car, now. They threw him across the hood. Just like today. Searched him. Just like today. Called him the same names. His badge meant nothing. His uniform meant nothing. Only his skin spoke. And it said, guilty. 10 years ago, detective now, 3 commendations, highest case closure rate in his precinct. Driving through a suburban neighborhood to interview a witness. Sirens behind him. Step out of the vehicle, sir. Officer, I'm a detective with... I said step out. Same dance, same humiliation, same assumption of guilt. This time he'd filed a complaint, documented everything. Names, badge numbers, time stamps. The complaint was marked unfounded within a week. The officer received a promotion 6 months later. 5 years ago. Captain of Internal Affairs. 6 years investigating dirty cops. Building cases that should have been ironclad. Watching them collapse anyway. Captain Morrison's signature on dismissal after dismissal. Commissioner Bradley's fingerprints on buried evidence. The system didn't just tolerate corruption, it required it. Lincoln blinked back to the present. Mayor Williams was speaking to the assembled press. Practiced words about investigation and accountability and appropriate measures. Political language designed to promise everything and commit to nothing. Deputy Commissioner Reynolds stood beside him, silent, watching. You knew this would happen. Reynolds spoke without looking at him. No. But you weren't surprised. No. Lincoln watched Vance standing alone at the edge of the crowd, abandoned by his partner, abandoned by his certainty. Surprised would require expectation of something different. You could have stopped it immediately, shown your credentials. Yes. Why didn't you? Lincoln turned to face him. Because if I'd flashed my badge, Vance would have apologized, said it was a misunderstanding, blamed the confusion on my failure to identify. His voice hardened. And tomorrow he would have done exactly the same thing to someone without a badge, someone without witnesses, someone who would disappear into the system with no one to speak for them. Reynolds nodded slowly. You wanted documentation. I wanted truth. Documented. Witnessed, irrefutable truth. You got it. Yes. Lincoln looked at the cameras, the phones, the faces. Now everyone has it. Among the life stories Lincoln carried, the heaviest were the ones he couldn't save. Darnell Washington, 23 years old, stopped for a broken taillight that wasn't broken, resisted when the officer got aggressive, died from injuries sustained during arrest. The officer received a 2-week suspension. Maria Gonzalez, 19. Wrong place at the wrong time. Picked up in a sweep of suspicious persons. Held for 48 hours. Lost her scholarship while waiting for charges that were never filed. No discipline. No acknowledgement. No justice. Terrence Miller, 46. Church deacon. Stopped 17 times in 1 year. Same neighborhood, same officers, finally filed a federal civil rights suit. Withdrew it after his family received threats. These were the cases that kept Lincoln awake at night. The ones that drove him through every obstacle, every setback, every moment when quitting seemed easier than continuing. He couldn't save them. Not retroactively, not individually. But maybe, just maybe, He could change the system that had failed them. Murphy approached, hesitant, like someone walking toward a cliff edge. "Chief Owens?" "Officer Murphy. I need to tell you something." "I'm listening." She couldn't meet his eyes. "What happened today? It wasn't the first time. Derek has done this before. To other people. I've watched him do it. I know. You know? 38 complaints in his personnel file. I've read every single one." Lincoln's voice held no accusation, just fact. "What I don't know is why you stayed silent." Murphy swallowed. "I was afraid. Of Derek. Of Captain Morrison. Of being labeled a rat. Of losing my job." She laughed bitterly. "I told myself it wasn't my place, that someone else would speak up, that it would sort itself out." "Did it?" "No." Tears formed in her eyes. "It never does it?" "No, it doesn't." "So what do I do now?" Lincoln considered her. Young, scared, compromised by her own cowardice, but also here, now, asking the question instead of running from it. "Now you choose," he said. "Same choice you had an hour ago, same choice you've had for 3 months. You can stay silent, protect your career, wait for this to pass. Or you can tell the truth. Everything you've seen, every stop, every search, every complaint that got buried. That would destroy me. Maybe. Or maybe it would save you." He held her gaze. "You became a cop for a reason, Officer Murphy. Some reason beyond a paycheck. What was it?" She didn't answer, but something shifted in her eyes. Diana Wells approached with her microphone. "Chief Owens, the public is demanding answers. Can you describe exactly what happened here today?" Lincoln faced the camera. Behind him, the Lamborghini with its scattered contents, the crowd with their phones, the officer whose career had just ended. "What happened here today," Lincoln said, "happens to Black Americans every single day. The difference is, most incidents don't have cameras. Most victims don't have titles. Most stories end with someone in handcuffs who shouldn't be, and no one to speak for them." "What does this mean for the officers involved?" "It means accountability. Real accountability. Not a suspension. Not a transfer. Actual consequences for actual violations." "Can you be specific?" Lincoln's voice hardened. 38 complaints against Officer Vance. 0 discipline. 48 similar patterns across this department. All buried. He paused. "I have the documentation. I've had it for months, and starting tomorrow, every single case will be reopened." Diana's eyes widened. "You're alleging systematic cover-ups?" "I'm stating documented fact. The evidence will speak for itself." The sun was setting over Ridgemont Heights, golden light spilling across manicured lawns, long shadows stretching from gates designed to keep people out. Tomorrow, Lincoln Owens would officially become chief of police. Tonight, he was still just a black man with blood on his face, standing in a neighborhood where 40 people had decided he didn't belong. Some touching stories had happy endings. His was only beginning. 2 hours later, City Hall steps. Every news outlet in the region represented. National networks picking up the feed. Black Chief trended at number 3 nationally. 4 million views and climbing. Lincoln stood at the podium. Borrowed suit. His own was evidence now. Bandage on his cheek. Raw marks still visible on his wrists. He'd refused makeup to cover them. The scars were part of the story. "Good evening." Flashbulbs erupted like lightning. "My name is Lincoln Owens. Tomorrow I will officially assume the position of Chief of Police for Ridgemont Heights." He let the cameras capture him, every angle, every mark. "You've all seen the video of my arrival in this city. I'm not going to minimize it. I'm not going to explain it away. I'm going to address it directly. At 3:48 this afternoon, I was stopped by Officer Derek Vance while driving through the Riverside district. I committed no traffic violation. I posed no threat. I was stopped because I am a black man driving an expensive car through a white neighborhood. He let that settle. During the course of this stop, I was addressed as boy. I was told that black men don't own Lamborghinis, we steal them. I was informed that my skin color was sufficient documentation to justify my detention. His voice remained level, clinical, more devastating for its calm. I was removed from my vehicle by force. My clothing was torn. I was slammed face first onto a hot metal surface, causing burns. I was spat upon. I was told I would be placed in a cage where animals belong. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I was handcuffed without charge. My vehicle was searched without warrant, without consent, and without legitimate probable cause. A K-9 alert was fabricated through handler manipulation. He paused. All of this occurred in broad daylight, with witnesses present, with cameras recording, with my credentials sitting in the vehicle the entire time. He leaned forward. Now imagine this same encounter without witnesses, without cameras, without a title in my pocket. Dead. What happened to me today is not an anomaly. It is a pattern. He opened a folder. Ridgemont Heights Police Department, past 5 years. The statistics fell like hammer blows. Total traffic stops, 19,247. Stops involving black drivers, 52%. Black population of Ridgemont Heights, 18%. He turned a page. Search rate for white drivers following stops, 4%. Search rate for black drivers following stops, 34%. Another page. Complaints filed against officers for racial bias or misconduct, 312. Complaints resulting in disciplinary action, 0. He looked up. Not a single complaint in 5 years was found to have merit. Not one. He closed the folder. This is not coincidence. This is not accident. This is systematic, institutionalized discrimination. And it ends now at dead. Mayor Williams stepped toward the microphone, political instincts demanding she regain control of the narrative. The city of Ridgemont Heights is committed to a thorough and transparent investigation. Mayor Williams, Lincoln's voice cut through. With respect, I'm not requesting an investigation. I'm informing you of actions already in progress. The mayor's mask slipped. Chief Owens, perhaps we should discuss. Officer Derek Vance is suspended without pay effective immediately. Termination proceedings will begin tomorrow. Criminal referral to the federal prosecutor's office will follow. Gasps from the crowd. Captain Harold Morrison, who supervised Officer Vance for 6 years and personally signed off on 31 of his 38 dismissed complaints, is also suspended pending investigation. The mayor's face went pale. Commissioner Bradley has been asked to take administrative leave while federal authorities review evidence suggesting his involvement in systematic obstruction of misconduct investigations. The crowd exploded. Lincoln raised his hand for silence. Additionally, I am implementing the following reforms effective at midnight tonight. He pulled out a second document. First, mandatory body cameras. All officers, all interactions. Any officer whose camera is disabled during a public encounter will face automatic suspension pending review. Second, civilian oversight board with full subpoena power. This board will operate independently of the department and will review all complaints without interference. Third, mandatory de-escalation training. 20 hours initial certification, 10 hours annual recertification, no exceptions. Fourth, complete audit of all complaints filed against officers in the past 10 years. Every dismissed complaint will be reopened. Every pattern will be examined. Fifth, zero tolerance policy for racial profiling. Any officer found to have conducted a stop based on race rather than articulable suspicion will be terminated. First offense, no warnings. No, he set down the document. These reforms are not suggestions. They are requirements. Officers who cannot meet these standards should consider alternative employment. Questions flew from the press corps for 20 minutes. Then Lincoln did something no one expected. Before I conclude, I'd like to invite someone to speak. Officer Jenny Murphy. Murphy stood frozen at the edge of the crowd. Officer Murphy was present during today's incident. She has information the public deserves to hear. 40 cameras swung toward her. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then slowly, like someone stepping off a ledge, she walked to the podium. Her hands shook as she gripped the microphone. "My name is Officer Jenny Murphy." Her voice cracked. She steadied it. "I've been with the Ridgemont Heights Police Department for 3 years. For the past 3 months, I've been partnered with Officer Derek Vance." She took a breath. "During that time, I witnessed him conduct at least 7 stops identical to what happened today. Black drivers, nice cars, no violation, no cause." Tears began forming. "I watched him search vehicles without warrant. I watched him fabricate K9 alerts. I watched him threaten and demean citizens who had done nothing wrong." Her voice broke. "And I said nothing." The crowd was utterly silent. Today, I found the appointment letter in Chief Owen's car. I knew who he was. I knew Derek was making the worst mistake of his life. She looked at Lincoln. And I still waited. I let it continue for another 20 minutes. Because I was scared. Because I didn't want to make waves. Because staying silent was easier than speaking up. She turned back to the cameras. "But I understand something now. My silence made me complicit. Every time I looked away, I became part of the system Chief Owens described. Every victim Derek created, I helped create too." She straightened her shoulders. "So I'm choosing differently. Starting now, I will testify about everything I witnessed. Every stop, every search, every buried complaint, whatever it costs me." She stepped back from the microphone. The crowd burst into applause. 11:46 p.m., Chief's office. Lincoln sat behind a desk still unfamiliar, boxes unpacked, new nameplate gleaming. Vance stood before him. No badge, no gun, no swagger, just a man watching his world collapse. "You wanted to see me?" "Sit." Vance sat. Lincoln opened a folder, thick with documentation. 38 complaints, 8 years, 0 discipline. He pushed it across the desk. "I've read every one. Want to know the common thread?" Vance stared at the folder, didn't touch it. "They're all black. Every complainant. Every single one." Silence. Jameson Williams, 2019. Stopped for a broken taillight that wasn't broken. Searched without consent. Nothing found. Lincoln turned pages. Denise Carter, 2020. Stopped for matching a description. No such description existed in any police database. Another page. Marcus Thompson, 2021. Detained for 38 minutes during an illegal vehicle search. Nothing found. Complaint filed. Morrison marked it unfounded. He closed the folder. 38 people. 38 violations of constitutional rights. Title 18, Section 242. Federal Civil Rights Statute. Each count carries up to 1 year imprisonment. He let the math hang in the air. "Do you understand the position you're in?" Vance's composure shattered. "I was doing my job. Your job is to protect and serve all citizens, equally. Those people are American citizens, same rights as anyone else, same protections under law. That's not how it works. That's exactly how it's supposed to work." Lincoln leaned forward. "The fact that it hasn't, that's why I'm here." Vance's hands clenched. "What do you want?" "Information." "About what?" "Morrison didn't protect you out of kindness. Someone gave him orders. Someone higher up. I want to know who." And if I cooperate? It will be noted during sentencing. Federal prosecutors value assistance in dismantling corruption networks. And if I don't? Lincoln's voice went cold. Then I will personally ensure every one of your 38 victims gets their day in court. I will testify. I will provide documentation. And I will watch while a federal jury calculates exactly how many years you spend in prison. The silence stretched. Then Vance broke. Morrison. His voice was barely audible. Morrison and his network. They've been running things for years. Quotas, targets, arrest numbers. What kind of quotas? Arrests, searches, asset seizures. Bitterness crept into his voice. Black neighborhoods were easy. Nobody complained, or if they did, nobody listened. Keep going. There's a network. 8 officers. We cover for each other. Morrison approves everything, and someone above Morrison keeps internal affairs away. Who? Vance hesitated. Who, Vance? Commissioner Bradley. The name fell like a bomb. He's been protecting Morrison for years, taking a cut of seizure money, making problems vanish. Lincoln sat back. Higher than he'd expected. Much higher. But that didn't change anything. It just meant more work. The next 72 hours redefined chaos. Federal agents arrived on day 2. Badges and warrants and subpoenas. Captain Morrison, arrested at his desk. 22 years on the force, walked out in handcuffs past officers he'd commanded. Commissioner Bradley, attempted to flee. Got as far as the airport before federal marshals intercepted him. 3 lieutenants, 2 sergeants, 4 patrol officers, all connected to the network Vance described. Evidence room audit revealed $2.8 million in misappropriated seized assets. Most of it from Black and Latino neighborhoods. Most of it never properly documented. The media coverage was relentless. Diana Wells broke story after story. Victim interviews, leaked documents, a pattern stretching back 15 years. National outlets descended on Ridgemont Heights, the police department that ate itself. Black chief exposes decade of corruption. How one traffic stop brought down an empire. But the real story wasn't on television. It was in a community center on the east side of town. 300 people packed into a room built for 100. Folding chairs overflowing into hallways. Children sitting on parents' laps. Elderly residents who'd waited decades for this moment. Lincoln stood among them. Not on stage, not behind a barrier. Just another person in a crowded room. My father was stopped 11 times in 1987. An elderly woman, voice trembling with decades of accumulated grief. 11 times in 1 year. For nothing. He died believing no one would ever listen. Lincoln took her hand. I'm listening. It's not just listening. Tears streamed down her face. You did something. After all these years, someone finally did something. A young man stood. 20s. Dreadlocks. Skepticism radiating from every pore. How do we know you're different? How do we know you won't just become another part of the machine? You don't. Lincoln's answer was honest. Not yet. I can't give you promises, only actions. Judge me by what happens next, not by what I say tonight. What will happen next? Vance will never wear a badge again. Neither will the 8 officers connected to him. Morrison faces federal charges. So does Bradley. Every buried complaint from the past decade will be reopened. He paused. But that's not enough. I know it's not enough. The damage is already done. The trust is already broken. The only thing I can do now is start rebuilding, brick by brick, day by day. Jalen raised his hand. Chief Owens, I'm the one who recorded the original video. I know who you are. I watched that cop throw you against your car, spit on you, call you an animal. Jalen's voice shook. How did you stay so calm? I don't know what I wanted to do. Lincoln considered the question. 20 years ago, I would have reacted differently. I was angry then. Angry at a system that criminalized my existence. Angry at officers who treated me like a threat despite my badge. He met Jalen's eyes. But I learned something. Anger without strategy is self-destruction. The system wants you to react, to give them justification, to become the threat they've already decided you are. So you just accept it? No. You transform it. You take the anger and forge it into something useful. You climb, you learn, you build power. And when you finally reach a position where you can make real change, he spread his hands. You make change. 3 weeks later, federal courthouse. Derek Vance stood before Judge Harriet Thompson. Gray suit, no tie, hands trembling visibly. The gallery was packed. Victims, media, officers from departments across the state, watching to see what accountability looked like. Derek Anthony Vance. The judge's voice was granite. You have been charged with 22 counts of civil rights violations under color of law, 14 counts of illegal search and seizure, 8 counts of filing false police reports, 5 counts of assault under color of law. She looked up from the documents. How do you plead? His attorney whispered something. Vance swallowed. Guilty, Your Honor, to all counts. Sentencing took less than an hour. Mr. Vance? The judge removed her glasses. In 34 years on the bench, I have seen many cases of police misconduct, but rarely have I encountered such a clear, sustained, deliberate pattern of constitutional violations. She leaned forward. You didn't just break the law. You weaponized it. You used your badge as a license to terrorize citizens whose only crime was existing while black. Vance stared at the floor. You represent everything that is wrong with American policing. Not because you are uniquely evil, but because you were allowed to operate for 8 years without consequence. Because a system protected you. Because no one with power chose to stop you. She put her glasses back on. This court sentences you to 14 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole for the first 10 years. Upon release, you will be permanently barred from any law enforcement position, public or private. The gavel fell. Court is adjourned. Lincoln watched from the back row. No satisfaction, no triumph. Just the heavy weight of justice too long delayed. 14 years. For 38 documented victims. Hundreds of undocumented incidents. Thousands of moments of terror inflicted on people who'd committed no crime. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. But it was a beginning. 6 months later. Murphy stood before the Civilian Oversight Board. Not as defendant, as witness. She'd testified in 11 cases, provided documentation leading to 17 terminations, become the department's most valuable and most hated voice for accountability. Officer Murphy, the board chair spoke. Your testimony has been instrumental in exposing systemic corruption within this department. This board acknowledges your contribution. Murphy nodded. Thank you. However, acknowledgement is not absolution. You've admitted to witnessing misconduct for months without reporting it. That constitutes serious ethical failure. I know, which is why your case has been difficult. The chair paused. Some board members advocated termination. Others argued for leniency given your cooperation. Murphy waited. We've reached a decision. You will serve a 2-year probationary period. During that time, you will lead the department's new accountability training program. You will teach other officers what you learned about the cost of silence. Murphy exhaled slowly. I accept. One additional note. The chair glanced at her papers. Chief Owens submitted a personal recommendation on your behalf. He believes you have the potential to become the kind of officer this department needs. Murphy blinked back tears. Tell him I won't let him down. 1 year later, Ridgemont Heights Police Department. Unrecognizable from what it had been. New training academy. De-escalation as foundational skill. Community relations as core competency. New hiring protocols. Psychological evaluation. Implicit bias testing. Background investigations that actually investigated backgrounds. New oversight. Civilian board with teeth. Body cameras with real enforcement. Complaints with real consequences. The statistics told the story. Traffic stop racial disparity, down from 52% to 22%, nearly matching population demographics. Complaints filed, up 180%, because people finally trusted someone would listen. Complaints sustained, 31%, not zero. Actual accountability. Use of force incidents, down 54%. Community trust ratings, up 43 points. Lincoln stood in his office, 1 year in, looking out at the city he'd sworn to protect. It wasn't perfect, would never be perfect. Racism didn't evaporate in 12 months. Systems didn't transform overnight. Old habits lurked in corners, waiting for attention to wander. But the direction had changed. Direction was everything. A knock at his door. Jalen entered. 19 now. Police Academy uniform crisp and proud. Chief Owens, you wanted to see me? I did. Lincoln smiled. How's training treating you? Tough. Good. Jalen paused. Different than I expected. Different how? The emphasis on service, on de-escalation, on seeing community members as people, not threats. He shook his head. It's not what I thought police training would be. It's not what it used to be. Because of you. Because of everyone who demanded change. I'm just the one who got the office. Jalen hesitated. Can I ask you something? Anything. That day, when Vance had you on the hood, calling you those names, spitting on you. His voice tightened. Did you ever think about giving up? Just walking away from the whole system? Lincoln considered the question. Every day, he admitted. For 22 years. Every day I wondered if it was worth it, if change was possible, if I was wasting my life fighting something unbeatable. What kept you going? Lincoln walked to his desk, picked up a framed photograph. Young black man in a police uniform, eyes bright with hope. This is me. First day on the job. That kid believed things could be different. That one person could shift the direction of history. He set the photo down. Most days, I fight for the victims. The people nobody listens to. The real-life stories that never make headlines. He looked at Jalen. But sometimes, I fight for that kid, to prove his faith wasn't wasted. 1 year to the day. Same street, same afternoon light, same midnight blue Lamborghini. Lincoln drove slowly through Ridgemont Heights, past manicured lawns, past gated driveways, past the corner where his face had pressed against burning metal. A patrol car approached from the opposite direction. Lincoln tensed. Old reflexes never fully died. The officer inside, young, black, female, raised her hand in a wave. Lincoln waved back. No sirens, no suspicion, no assumptions. Just two people sharing a road. That was the real victory. Another car passed. Young black man in a BMW, music playing, windows down, no fear in his posture. He nodded at Lincoln. Lincoln nodded back. A year ago, that young man would have been calculating escape routes, rehearsing compliance scripts, preparing for the worst. Today, he was just driving. Normal. It had taken a lifetime to reach normal. Lincoln pulled over at the exact spot where it all began. Someone had placed a small marker there. unofficial, handmade. Here, change began. Below it, flowers, cards, photographs, messages from people he'd never met. My son can drive without looking over his shoulder. Thank you. For my father, stopped 43 times in his life. He didn't live to see this, but I did. You made us believe again. Among all the black stories Lincoln had witnessed and lived, this one wasn't finished, would never be finished. Racism didn't die in a year. Systems didn't transform completely. Old poisons lingered in corners waiting for opportunities. But direction mattered, and the direction had changed. Lincoln returned to his car. Before driving away, he spoke quietly, to himself, to the air, to everyone who'd ever been stopped for existing. Power isn't what happens to you. It's what you build from what happens. He started the engine. They can take your dignity. They can take your safety. They can take your faith in the system. He pulled onto the road, but they cannot take your purpose, not unless you surrender it. The Lamborghini disappeared into the afternoon sun. This story was fiction. The statistics were not. 52%, 34%, 0 complaints sustained. These numbers exist in police departments across America, right now, today. Change is possible. This story proves it. But change requires witnesses, requires voices, requires people willing to speak when silence is safer. So we ask you, have you experienced what Lincoln experienced? Have you witnessed injustice and stayed silent? Tell us in the comments. Your story matters. Your voice matters. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes one story changes everything. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. We're not done telling these stories. Not until they no longer need to be told. For everyone who was never believed. For everyone still fighting. For everyone who refuses to give up. This is a story about power. Not the power of a badge. The power of patience, purpose, showing up anyway. What will you do with yours?